Hi, and welcome to my home seller seminar, educating sellers on how to be proactive when beginning to the process in listing your home for sale. I'm Gerine Skamarak with the Gerine team at Exit Realty East Coast, and tonight we are going to be discussing the importance of a home seller's home inspection to prepare your home for sale. And tonight my guest is Sean Weaver from Rest Assured Home Inspectors. Welcome, Sean.
Thanks, Gerine. Thanks so much for having me tonight.
You're welcome. So I know I had already, if you've been watching, you've seen I've had a home stager on, and how important that is to get that your home prepared that way. The importance, then the next is the professional photography. And this tonight I find is going to be a very good topic because a lot of people don't think about this. They leave things up to the buyer to have their home inspection because buyers have the right to home inspection. That's part of the contract. And I don't like waiting till the end for something. And that's one of my top priorities in my platinum package when I do list your home is to have the home inspection. And Sean is my go-to home inspector. I have been working with Rest Assured Home Inspectors for the last 5 years, and I can tell you they've been a phenomenal advantage for me when I'm working with sellers. Sean has been such an integral part of coming in, being very flexible with the home seller's schedule, and going through the home as if it was a home buyer's inspection, but giving the list of things that are maybe important or need to be addressed so that the seller can prepare ahead of time. The goal here is to net you the most money. And how can we do that if a seller is then slammed with a home inspection list from the buyer's inspector and has a large list of items that they would like having taken care of and expect a credit possibly or just all of it to be corrected? Now, in the most recent and where we are still in this sales environment, home buyers have been waiving a lot of their rights with inspections. I don't necessarily believe that that should be the case. They do limit things because you're still having a home inspection as a buyer, but sellers, I like to have it known up front. What is it that we need to take and address before a home buyer comes in with something that could be a major item? So Sean, when you're inspecting the house, what are we looking for when you start with the home inspection?
So, like you said, when I go into a home for the first time, whether it's for a buyer or a seller, I'm treating it as the same inspection.
Right.
So I'm looking for anything that could be a safety hazard, something that's not functioning as it should, or anything that basically is going to cause any alarm for safety or future issues in the near future. So on the seller side, obviously, if you're selling your house, the last thing that we would want, like Gerine said, is to have a buyer's inspector come in there and have a laundry list of things that you guys have to take care of that could be avoided realistically. So that's why Gerine and her team and a lot of the realtors at Exit Realty East Coast use Rest Assured Home Inspectors and our pre-listing inspection. That way you can kind of get a head start on figuring out what needs to be done, what's going to show up on that inspection report when you do have a buyer come in and accept your offer and have their own home inspector come into the house and check things out. So a lot of the things that we see are electrical issues because a lot of people don't open up their electrical panel often unless they're doing work frequently.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of things that we can see before you list the house. That way you have time to figure out, is this something that I want to take care of now?
Right.
Or is this something that I want to put on the buyer, let their inspector find it, and we can negotiate at the seller's table, basically.
I find that all of the sellers I've worked with in the past have really appreciated having the home inspection. You've lived in your home, could be 20 or more years, and you're not accustomed, you forgot that the door doesn't open properly, you're just used to it that way. You don't realize the light switch was broken. You haven't plugged in something in that wall socket over there in a while. You didn't realize the springs in the garage door need to be replaced. These are things that you're just not aware of because it didn't break. So you think it's fine. And that's something else to be aware of. You know, when it comes to a furnace, for instance, it's not, you know, a lot of times buyers will say, they're an inspector, and I'm sure when you're representing the buyer, you'll say, well, this furnace is 20 years old or 25 years old. It's past its life expectancy. It doesn't mean it's broken, it's just older. But when we know this up front and we're disclosing things and telling, I mean, a lot of buyers know, and especially with my business over the years, my house has come with a home inspection. So they'll ask, is there anything that we should be aware of? Was there anything that was important? And I think that's important up front.
And to piggyback off of that, like you said, if you're in your home for 20 years, there are quirks to your house that you just get used to.
Yeah.
So you know that in order to open this door handle, I have to open it up. And I have to jiggle it 3 times in order for it to open. That's going to show up on a home inspection, and that's going to be something that the buyer's going to come to you and say, hey, listen, this is something that I want fixed.
Right.
That's why you do the pre-sale inspection, have us come in there before you list the home. That way you can fix those things easily. It's not something that you have to worry about, you know, when the buyer comes in and does their inspection. And then there's even situations, I just recently did an inspection in Asbury Park. It was an investment property. The homeowner, like I said, it's an investment property. They hadn't been in that property for 15 years. So they don't know what's going on in the house. They had the same renter for that entire time. So they didn't know what was going on, and they didn't know, you know, what's the condition of the hot water heater, or what's the condition of the washer and dryer, even simple appliances like that. So it's really important to get an inspector in there before you list it in those investment properties, or even a house that you've lived in for 20 years. That way you know kind of what you're listing, and you know,
and it helps with pricing. I mean, 100%. You know, if you're not interested to do anything, you can't expect top dollar for a home that doesn't seem like it's been well maintained. A well-maintained home, and someone that, you know, buyers are well aware when they visually can see things that whether they're broken or not. So it's really an important step. I remember doing this whole series 2 years ago, and I had a lot of my clients say to me, that was so important, that episode, because I went and got my home inspected after that, because I'm thinking, you know, let me call Gerine, get somebody in so that we can make sure that you know, if we're preparing the house for sale now, we know it's going to be at least inspected. We know what's up, what we need to correct, if anything, at that point.
Absolutely. And the other thing that I'll add on top of that is, as a home inspector, we carry a certain level of knowledge and expertise that not all realtors know. Obviously, you've been in the business for a long time. You've gained a lot of knowledge over that time.
But I'm not the expert.
Right.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like, there's a lot of lay people out there who don't know what they're looking at. And so we can bring a lot of value to not only yourself as a seller, but to the realtors as well.
Right.
Because, you know, you may not know that this heating system is actually a geothermal system that has X, Y, and Z parts that need to be maintained. And then when you're writing your, you know, listing description that goes on to sell the house, you can be very detail oriented. You know the exact ages of all the equipment.
Right.
You know the conditions of it, what needs to be done on it, when it was last replaced, that kind of stuff. That way you can, like I said, get the most value out of the house, which is the end goal.
The worst I find it when you don't have enough information to provide to the buyer. You know, you're hiring me to list your home to get get the details. This is part of the details, because you may not remember when the furnace was put in, or how old the roof is, and you know, you may not know the exact timestamp date on that one, but it gives a good general idea. And that makes a buyer then say, okay, now I understand. And especially in this market, you know, you're paying full price or still slightly over that because of our low inventory. So they do not want to buy a home and pay more than they need to go into now a whole array of fixing up or whatever. And it really helps to know what the seller has, you know, as a product that they're selling.
Yeah, and I would say from the feedback that I get from a lot of realtors who use us for the pre-sale inspections, is it really streamlines the sale process.
Oh, it does.
So, I mean, you know exactly what you're going to find. You know ahead of time, you know, what the inspector for the buyer is going to find. You can already plan ahead for it, and that way, when you come to the negotiating table, you already have the game plan in hand. You have the playbook right there, and you can kind of negotiate. You already know what you're willing to concede, what you're willing to kind of hold firm on, and it kind of just makes the entire process so much smoother, which is why I really recommend it to any realtor who's listing or selling a house.
I would love for you to, reach out to me. It's part of my package, but whoever you use, there should be a question that you pose to them and ask, well, can we get this done and why not?
Absolutely.
If it's not.
Absolutely.
And what I piggyback along with the home inspection is a home warranty. And that's, another product that I add on. And I think that helps because when you do have the HVAC system, that's it, that's older than its, or reaching its life expectancy, for instance, it doesn't mean it's broke. But if I have that home warranty piggybacking with the knowledge of the inspection, and the home warranty kind of ties in together with that so that the buyer feels a little more comfortable spending that top dollar, and then my seller is more satisfied because they're getting what they, one of the things that because you're inspecting every day, leaning on Sean for what's a hot topic. Sometimes it's, an environmental issue. Things change where now they have, you have to have 2 radon canisters for the inspections. It could be a mold or an environmental. Again, as a seller, when you see a buyer's contract come in and it says we're limiting inspections, and a lot of times they'll use terminology like for just major structural or issue, Sean.
A structural issue is anything that's compromising the foundation or actual structure of the house. So it could be a crack in your basement. It could be undersized joists in your, in the floors. It could be, the window frame itself is cracked due to water damage over time. So it's not necessarily the entire structure of the house, but the structure of that window could be compromised. So things like that are obviously big ticket items that we want to kind of get ahead of the curve on that and see. And
knowing that up front, and then saying to my clients, the seller, how about we get an estimate? Because most estimates are free or very little money, or they'll put it towards the work if need be done. But let's get an estimate so that we're being, again, proactive. We've gotten the inspection. We're going to get an estimate to see what is it exactly needs to be done. How much is that going to cost? Are you willing to do that? Credit the buyer, or is the buyer okay with that, knowing it's only X amount of dollars to correct the window or whatever it is?
Right. And I find, like you said, being proactive and taking action is the best thing you can do for your house.
Agreed.
And even if you're not selling your house, it's the best thing you can do. If you see a little crack coming out of the corner of your window, it does not benefit you in any way, shape, or form to leave that there.
Ignore it.
It got there for a reason.
Yeah.
So let's do some investigating, figure out why it's there. That way it doesn't become a bigger problem.
Right.
Because you can easily, slap some caulk on it and forget about it. And then, 3 weeks later, you find out it's a water problem, and there's a huge water stain below the window.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's any sort of action is better than no action, obviously.
Yeah,
so
don't turn a blind eye.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, and then for a buyer, the inspection is not to find fault in the house. It's to educate the buyer on, what are you purchasing and what are the things that you do need to maintain the house for the next year. Every season there's something else that you need to do, and as you are become a homeowner. So it goes both ways.
Absolutely,
it really does.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from the buyer's perspective, we're, like you said, we're not looking there to pick apart the house and find everything wrong with it. We're looking to educate our clients. We're not looking to kill any deals. We're not looking to make people feel like the sky's falling. I just want you to know what you're buying.
Right.
It's a huge investment. It's a large purchase.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that you're informed about what you have.
And it's not, it goes more than just a home inspection. That obviously is something that I always bring right in. But then I start to talk about, depending on your home as a seller, do you have a septic? Do you have a well? Do you have a swimming pool? These are all inspections that are also a part of the buyer's inspection. If you're, asking questions and learning about your property is my job, and doing some, digging and finding out, when, how old the septic system is, knowing that if you, some areas around here have well water and septic. Well, you're responsible to get the well water tested. Are you aware of that? Did you know that? Well, let's do it now because you're going to have to do it anyway. So we want to get it done ahead of time because as the market is opening up and homes come on the market, buyers are waiting there to just jump.
Absolutely.
So you're going to sell quickly because we only have in Monmouth County right now just over 1,000 homes for sale. And that is insane because it is just, we're so many more buyers than there are homes for sale. That's why it's still a seller's market. Don't let people discourage you on there's the rates. People still have the ability to buy. They need to buy. Families are growing, downsizing, job changes, all of that is there. Let's prepare your house step by step. And this is one of the steps I find to be the most crucial, is to really get you the most money as a seller because we're going to be prepared here. So
absolutely, which is I would say the biggest takeaway is the pre-sale inspections are all about being prepared and being ready to go in to list your home and get the most value out of it.
I had recently an open house, and I had mentioned a lot of people came through, and I said they were asking questions because it was an older home but well taken care of.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I also had a home inspection done on it, so I can tell you things that needed to be done were already addressed. And they said, why did you do a home inspection? And I said, exactly what we're talking about tonight. And, they said, wow, our house is listed and we didn't have that done. And I said, well, you know what? It's a proactive approach. Everyone, knowledge is power, and you are going to learn, hopefully from me, helping you with whether we work together or you're going to talk to whomever you work with as another realtor. But this is information I think is really helpful for our community.
Absolutely. I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah. So now, is there anything particular lately that you've seen that maybe we should be kind of honing in on?
I would say recently, within the last couple of years, because of COVID and the pandemic, obviously a lot more people are working from home. So I've come across a lot more people wanting to test for radon, actually.
Okay.
Because they are converting basements, stuff like that, into home offices. So radon, for anyone that doesn't know at home, is a naturally occurring radioactive gas that's, the earth naturally produces. New Jersey is actually pretty exceptionally high in radon, typically, depending on where you live in the state. And we test for it. It's an activated charcoal canister that we just place in the home for about 48 hours, up to 6 days. That's probably the most common thing that we've seen an increase with recently, as far as services. But as far as, when I'm going into a pre-listing inspection or pre-sale inspection, the things that I'm finding that people don't notice in their own home, the kind of quirks, is usually easy stuff. So GFCI outlets in your bathrooms and kitchens, especially laundry rooms. Anything within 6 feet of a water source should have that kind of GFCI outlet. The other thing would be window seals. So it's not really hurting the window. It's just that fogginess that you see on the inside between the window panes. People live with that for years, and they don't do anything about it. But there's nothing that window can be done to fix it other than replacing it. So I always and that's always going to show up on an inspection report. And
then we have to take it another step outside of the home inspection. There's also your municipality is going to have a CO inspection. A certificate of occupancy is a transfer of that. It goes at the closing table from the seller to the buyer. So that has to be cleared from the town. And some of these towns require those windows to get fixed or replaced. And their list of regulations and requirements, I should say, change on a yearly basis. And that's another thing I'm bringing with me when we sit down and talk is we need to make sure that these items are addressed. And if Sean sees something on there, let's check and make sure that this is something that we address because it's going to have to be done.
Right.
And that's, it can't be, the term as is a very loosely I think, term, because attorneys are not going to represent you. My next week's guest is going to be an attorney and talk to you about why it's important to have him or her represent you, because they're looking out for your best interest. And some of those things are, saying as is not the best. It doesn't mean that this buyer can't say, I want that window replaced because it is a structural issue and it's going to cause water damage or something. There's a lot of things that go involved in this. So again, being proactive is really what we're looking to do.
Absolutely, yeah. And on top of that, like with the attorneys, like they can kind of frame anything to be a major, something that we can, ask for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So on the buyer side, on the seller side, we're trying to be as like you said, as proactive as possible. That way we don't need to have any, concessions or anything like that.
Exactly.
We have those things kind of taken care of and put to bed already.
Right. So, well, if you have any questions about any home inspection issues, Sean, why don't you give them your information, because he's such a go-to person. I've been on appointments and showed him pictures of things or asked questions, and he's always been available to help me, even on the other side when another buyer's inspection comes up, and why something maybe we thought we missed, but it wasn't as detrimental as it came out.
100%, yeah. So you can reach me. My direct contact number is 267-229-4837, or you can reach me via email at rahomeinspectors@gmail.com.
Okay, well, thank you. And again, I'm Gerine Skamarak. Where to find me. You can go, also, I forgot, on my website, thegerineteam.com, I have a checklist that Sean provided for me that you can download, and you can get a whole checklist of things to prepare your home for sale. If you need anything, you can reach out to me, 908-902-4778. Thank you, and have a great night.